welcome to another episode of All Things Aussie Footy, covering everything from the AFL to the AFLW and beyond to do with the Australian Rules Football League. My name is Ashley and today we will be looking at a recap of Round 8 and a bit of an in-depth view into the Round 9 fixtures, as well as the ladder and some news that is coming across from the AFLW this past week. If you haven't already, go and hit that subscribe button down below, leave a like on our videos, and also go follow us on Facebook at All Things Aussie Footy, and let us know what you guys think about the show, what you guys want to see, what you guys don't like, what we should take out. Give us some feedback on the shows and we'll make it a custom for you guys so you can sit and enjoy these shows that we do for you each week. Also, major thank you to our partner in Rolla Games, who have just come out and developed an Australian Rules Football League game, and you can see down in front of the laptop here. Mad Footy, great game to play with the family, friends, or even if you're out and about, at the public, at a park, at a party, whatever. It's a great thing to do, great fun, bit of banter in it, amazing game, well worth the money. Go and copy yourself Mad Footy, go and follow Rolla Games on Facebook and Instagram. All of their links will be down below, as well as where you can purchase the game. So go and check that out and show them some love. They're only a small business, only started up, so make sure you go and do that as well, guys. So, getting stuck into it, Round 8 started on May 6th with two big games in Port Adelaide and the Bulldogs at the Adelaide Oval, and Fremantle and North Melbourne at Optus Stadium. Ultimately, the Port Adelaide and the Bulldogs game was definitely the one to watch of the day, with Port Adelaide running away with a 17-point win, and a much-needed win at that, against the Bulldogs. Port Adelaide running away 86-69, playing a strong style of football there at the Adelaide Oval. They're working their way back up again. They're starting to find their momentum, they're starting to find their mojo that they ended last year with. Obviously didn't show it in the first couple of rounds, but they are now starting to find that mojo, and I can't wait to see where it takes them leading into the finals. Obviously, still plenty of weeks left, but it'll be good to see if they can crack into that finals. The Bulldogs, on the other hand, really need to kind of change some stuff up, get a bit stronger. Grand finalists last year, they've had an up and down year. There shouldn't be any excuses for that. I feel like they've got a lot more to show for what they've done last year. Obviously getting smashed in the grand final against Melbourne, but they've got a lot of potential in there that they need to kind of bring through. The other game that was played, like I said, was Fremantle and North Melbourne Optus Stadium, where Fremantle ran away with a 102-24 victory over North Melbourne in front of, it wasn't really a packed Optus Stadium. It was more probably half full, if that. It was still a healthy crowd as it was. But Fremantle ultimately running away with a 78-point win, which was a massive win for them. Fremantle had a few great standout players. Nathan O'Donnell from the pocket with one of the goals against him. Massive goal, great kick on it, especially for a left footer as well, and still being on the other side of the boundary. Very tough kick, especially on a drop punt. North Melbourne, definitely they could pick up a lot more, especially with Horn Francis as well. They need to kind of give him a bit more of a lead role, get him out there a bit more. I know there has been a hold on contract negotiations with Horn Francis for his future at North Melbourne, so hopefully they can come to a conclusion there and try and get him, but we'll also see where it leads into. Super Saturday started with a major game at the MCG between the Richmond Tigers, who welcome back Dusty Martin that week, as well, and Collingwood, who are playing topsy-turvy as well. They need to be looking at finals again. They've got the strength to be able to do it. Unfortunately, their strength didn't come out in this game. Obviously, Richmond running away 113-86 wins. There's 27 points there. Dusty played a great game, first game back, running through the midfield down in the forward. Always great to see him back with the likes of Nankervis, Revolt, Lynch down forward, Bolton in the mid as well, and especially with Trent Cotchin too. So great to see him back. Hopefully he's back for the rest of the season, which will give a bit of a boost to Richmond. The upset of the week, I feel, was definitely Gold Coast and the Swans. The Swans, unfortunately, going down at home, 61-75 versus the Suns. A couple of great games a couple of great players in there. Buddy Franklin ultimately had a quiet game. He only finished with 11 disposals and a goal. Feel like he could do a lot more than that. A couple of Suns players were sitting high 20s with their disposals. So definitely Suns are getting some momentum through there. They've just got to shift that another gear to be able to look at playing finals. I don't think they're quite ready for finals yet, but they are definitely showing that over these past few years they have definitely improved. Giants and the Cats, it was the game that followed. The Cats ultimately bouncing back from that 3-point loss to Fremantle last week at home and beating the Giants at Spotless Stadium, 12-16, 88 to 4 goals, 11-35. So big game there for Geelong. Happy to see them back on the winners board. It's definitely a confidence boost there heading into this week's round. Giants, on the other hand, really still need to bounce up. They had a massive win last week, but unfortunately they couldn't capitalise this week against Geelong. So I'm hoping that this round coming they're going to shift that gear back to where they were 2 weeks ago and just be able to run and win games, run them all out with the help from Toby Green and the rest of the players there. They need to start playing like they have teammates rather than kind of hogging it. Good to see Toby Green not getting suspended at the moment, so that's a plus sign. The other game that was being played as well, there was actually two on at the same time, so there was Essendon and Hawthorn, Brisbane and West Coast. Obviously, we know what happened with Brisbane and West Coast, but Essendon and Hawthorn, topsy-turvy, kind of started off a little bit slow for me, but then built up. Both teams were very well in it until the final siren. However, Essendon ultimately came away with a 108-81 victory over Hawthorn. So Essendon definitely putting their name forward as if to say, look, we're going to find momentum, let's get going, let's get these games. Brisbane at the Gabba, I can't really say anything about this game. It was 105-30. Eagles had a lot of outs. They definitely had a lot of top-up players come through from the waffle system. They had to call up stars from multiple waffle teams, not just their own, to the point that their waffle team, basically their seconds team, had to not be able to play last week against East Fremantle. So that game will be played tomorrow instead at New South Wales Park, just so that the Eagles could play. So ultimately the Lions running away with a 105-30 win over at the Gabba. So a great win by them. Sunday we then kicked off a two-game Sunday. Unfortunately, I don't like the idea of 2 game Sundays, 2 games Fridays. I feel like it should always just be 1 game Friday, 3 games Sunday, or 1 Thursday, 1 Friday, but still always end with 3 on a Sunday. I don't know why they've done it this way, but 2 game series on Sunday kicked off with Melbourne and St Kilda at the G. Big test for St Kilda if they wanted to kind of see what they need to look like going into finals. This was a preview for all St Kilda fans, all of the AFL fans, to see how they would play going forward into the season. Sitting top 8, looking quite comfortable. Ultimately, Melbourne then kicked away and took the win 14-9-93 to 87-55. St Kilda definitely had a chance of winning that game, but I just didn't see them coming away with it. Melbourne were proving too strong. They got off to a fast start. A lot of things St Kilda need to improve for next week. To round out the round, not the season, but to round out the round, we had Carlton playing home to Adelaide at Marvel Stadium. Ultimately, Adelaide are now sliding down the ladder. Port are going up, Adelaide sliding down. It's got to be something to do with the water in Adelaide, I reckon. It's definitely topsy-turvy in there. Carlton running away with a 116-68 win. Unfortunately, Harry McKay has gone down with an injury, so he's expected to be sidelined for a couple of weeks. But Adelaide definitely have the players that they need to step up and be able to show what they're capable of, what they're made of, and be able to try and push to climb that ladder again. 2017 making grand final, and then since then they've really done jack shit. So it kind of now it lies in the hands of their coach. I'm surprised their coach is still there, but they need to find that momentum they had at the start of the year. Yes, they went down to Fremantle in round 1, but they did have some sort of momentum in after that game. Now they're sliding down. Port Adelaide are starting to win. It's just now wait and see what happens. But basically, that's how the round ends. Big upset for myself, obviously, is the Sydney and the GWS game. Sorry, not Sydney and GWS, Sydney and Gold Coast. Gold Coast starting to show why they're still in the comp and their experience they've got with Levi Casbolt on from Carlton to Gold Coast. Manu Chol from Richmond to Gold Coast. They're definitely getting a lot of star players through, getting a lot of star power and helping them progress up the ladder rather than kind of sitting bottom 5, 6 area. I feel like they may push for finals towards the end of the year. They may end up just missing it. But they're definitely kind of making a statement now that it's getting later and later into the season. We're already 2 months in or something. So it's definitely up there. But if we look at the ladder at the moment, obviously we've got Melbourne on top, closely followed by Fremantle, Brisbane, Carlton, Geelong, Sydney, St Kilda and Richmond as your top 8. Fremantle, the top 3, Melbourne, Fremantle, Brisbane, are definitely making statements as to why we can expect them in September, why we can expect them to win premierships. Melbourne making a case for back-to-back, but Fremantle definitely making a case to say, look, we're going for our first flag this year. They had that chance in 2013 where they finished a little bit higher up the ladder. I believe they finished in the top 4 in 2013 when they went on and played Hawthorn in that grand final. Unfortunately, they did go down to it. So hopefully they're slowly bouncing back. They've had a bit of a rebuild now. They've definitely got the strength. They've got the star players that can play with them. We can still wait for Nat 5 to come back. So that's going to boost their midfield when he does come back. I think he's back in about round 10 or 11. Not too sure, but when he comes back, who knows who's going to make way, but it will strengthen the midfield up a lot more. He just, in all honesty, Nat 5 really just needs to work on his goal kicking. Collingwood, the Bulldogs, Port Adelaide, knocking on that door of the top 8. Well, pretty much Collingwood, Western Bulldogs, Port Adelaide, Hawthorn, Gold Coast and Adelaide all basically a win out of the 8 with Richmond on 4 and 4, Collingwood 4 and 4, the rest are 3 and 5. So still knocking on that door, it's still not quite set, but people say once about halfway through the year the ladder's usually set. So I reckon by around 10 or 11 it's going to start taking shape to the point that we're going to see teams that are going to make finals, see who's going to be playing in finals, and that'll be interesting. Giants, Essendon, North Melbourne, West Coast rounding out your bottom 4. Ultimately, those teams do still have a lot of experience with them, especially West Coast. It is a shame to see them bottom of the ladder. Ultimately, they can't help it. They've had that many ins, they've had that many outs due to COVID situations, so it is understandable. The incident involving those nightclub players as well, that wasn't right at all. They were told not to do that, and that was after their 102-point thrashing of Richmond. So they were fined $5,000 each with half suspended, so $2,500 suspended in case they screw up again. But hopefully they've learnt their lesson. Hopefully we can see them back. They do have a couple of outs this week in Shannon Hearn and Andrew Gaff, who both pulled up sore from training, so they won't be in. So they're calling upon more top-up players from the Waffle. They're dropping Patrick Naish for the Eagles reserves game versus East Fremantle, and they've dropped Jake Florenka from South Fremantle. He's going to go and make his way through back to the state levels, but he's going to go and represent Western Australia, who will play South Australia this Sunday, at Optus Stadium as a curtain raiser to the West Coast versus Melbourne game. So that'd be good. Hopefully I'll have some results from that one as well for the next episode, which I'll let you guys know. But basically that's how the ladder sits at the moment. Definitely Carlton being a surprise team, being top 4, but as I said, early stages, we won't know really how it's going to shape up until maybe round 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there about halfway through the season. Or even when everyone's had their bye, we may see it starting to take place and start to kind of be able to lock in some teams that are going to be making finals. So that'd be interesting when that comes through. But as I was saying, like I said, the fixtures for this week, obviously it starts tonight with a massive game between Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium. I feel like that game should be at the MCG. but it's not, unfortunately. So starting at Marvel Stadium, we've got Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs. Collingwood proving strong. The Bulldogs are sliding a little bit, but it will definitely be a good game with that one. That's starting at 5:50 Australian Western Standard Time, so time here in WA. After that will be this again another Super Saturday football, starting with Hawthorn and Richmond at the G, which I feel like that's going to be two powerhouse clubs. Obviously Richmond bouncing back after Alistair Clarkson left. They've now got Sam Mitchell, or is it Tom Mitchell? It's either Sam or Tom Mitchell, correct me if I'm wrong. I can't think of which one it is, let me know in the comments down below, but one of those two teams, one of those two coaches, definitely paving the way back from Hawthorn. They started to show a bit of their three-peat years, I think it was 12, 13, 14, or it was 13, 14, 15. Their three-peat year anyway, that they're showing some more, 13, 14, 15 because they played the Eagles when they won their third premiership, but they're starting to show a lot more of that skill and that knowledge based around beating that a player from those years is now coaching him, so he knows what Clarko's left him. Richmond, on the other hand, definitely have a very strong team on paper. The likes of Dusty Martin, Trent Cotchin, Toby Nankervis running through the mid. You got Jack Revol and Tommy Lynch down forward. So it's definitely going to be a strong team on paper there. Ultimately, my tip was going to have to go to Richmond for that game. North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, I can't really say much about that, but I'm going to have to go Port Adelaide. That one's being played in Hobart, Bloodstone Arena. So that'll be interesting with that one. But Port Adelaide, I feel like they're starting to prove why they're going to start climbing that ladder and make that push for a final spot. St Kilda and Geelong is going to be a great game. That one's at Marvel. That is at 2:35 PM. So an afternoon game for the Saints. Ultimately, I'm sorry, but I'm a Saints supporter. We do have a strong team on paper, but Geelong's got that experience. It's going to be very close, but I'm going to back Geelong for that one. Sydney and Essendon. Sydney coming off a very shock loss to Gold Coast last week, where Essendon, it's topsy-turvy for them this year, that's how they went. They're coming off a win against Hawks. So, one team coming off a loss, one team coming off a win. Obviously the Swans wanting to bounce back and show why they want to bring it back up. That's been played at the SCG, so they're going back to where they were at when they took a loss, unfortunately. But I feel like this one's maybe too strong. Buddy Franklin needs to do a bit more than what he's actually been doing the past few games. So I'm probably going to have to go Sydney for that one, but I reckon it's going to be relatively close. Under 15, I reckon. Adelaide and Brisbane. Big teams, big game for both. Played at the Adelaide Oval. Brisbane, again, top three, showing why they're up there. Adelaide are starting to slide a little bit down the ladder. Brisbane are paying $1.21, Adelaide at $4.30. Unfortunately, Mitch Robinson from Brisbane will be out this week. His partner's just given birth, so congratulations to them. But Brisbane's definitely still got a stronger team on paper than what Adelaide do. Tex needs to stand up in a big way to help them get across the line. Ultimately, Brisbane for me for this game. Sunday, we kick off at Metricon with Gold Coast at Fremantle. Haven't seen a lot of Gold Coast at Metricon this year. Fremantle playing way too strong. Easy tip for me with this one was Fremantle. Obviously, the odds are still fluctuating. It's still sitting around 250, 260 mark for Gold Coast. Around $1.50 for Fremantle. Meant to be a close game, but ultimately Fremantle are going to come away with it. I reckon over 25, easy. Giants and Carlton, that would be a tough game out there. That would be played at Giants Stadium, or Spotless Stadium as it's also known as in New South Wales. Giants coming off a very tough game, a very tough loss to the Cats. Carlton up in the 4 are trying to make a statement as to say, yes, we are going to make a push for that final spot. So I'd be looking at Carlton for that one. And you already know I'm going for last game. Melbourne or West Coast. Obviously Melbourne, the WA boy, but West Coast, they have a lot of outs again this week. They've got 2 extras that were named this morning that were out. Melbourne definitely do have the strength to beat them by about 100 plus. But ultimately I feel like if Melbourne are up by 40, 50, 60 points come three-quarter time, they may just slow down a little bit and just go, you know what, we've won this, we're on top of the ladder, we don't need to worry about percentage at the moment. So obviously my tip easy is going to have to go with Melbourne. That one's at Optus Stadium. Like I said before that, the curtain raiser, WA South Australia, state game between the Sandford and the Waffle. Be a great day out at Optus Stadium for that one, and I can't wait for the round to get started tonight. But big news coming out of the AFLW is that Port Adelaide have signed 2 new players to their team. Obviously they're an expansion team, they're coming back in, well, they're coming into the competition for season 22-23. They've signed Fremantle powerhouse forward Gemma Houghton, so she'll be making her debut to play for Port Adelaide this season. She's always supported Port Adelaide, so it's always been a dream to go and play for them. Now the opportunities come up, I can see why she left to go and play for them, so all the best to her. But also they've signed crosstown rival ex-Adelaide Crows captain in Erin Phillips. So those two playing out forward is definitely going to prove to us that they may be a force come this year, but we can't wait to see that happen. Cara and Ebony Antonio, they are both looking at joining a Melbourne expansion club. There's rumours that they are in talks with a couple of teams over there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. It'll be interesting to see what Fremantle receive for them, knowing that there are 3 big players that are going, 2 that are potentially gone, but one's definitely gone. It'll be interesting to see what happens there, what picks they end up with in the draft. Obviously making the preliminary final, pretty sure it was. Pretty sure I made the preliminary final, but it's definitely going to impact a lot more. Interesting to see what picks they get, what they receive for each of those players. But it's definitely going to be a rebuilding year for Fremantle, I reckon. Other than that, I haven't really heard anything else from the AFLW. The AFL is also set to announce the time of the AFL Grand Final for this year, meant to be back at the MCG, and they are looking at a twilight game due to the recent twilight games as well, in terms of where it was played in 2020 at the Gabba and 2021 at Optus Stadium, and how much of a success it was. So they're looking at trialling that at the MCG, so that will be interesting anyway. But I feel like they should just stick to their normal time slot of 2:30 Melbourne time. It's a traditional slot for the grand final, big day for those, so it's topsy-turvy, each to their own, but they need to kind of go back and just stick with what they've done in the past, and that's just have that 2:30 game for the grand final and just let it be like that rather than screwing around with the times or the rest of it. But other than that, guys, that's it for me. That's all I have to report for this round. But stay tuned for the recap of round 9 of the AFL Premiership season. That will be coming out next episode, as well as a preview for round 10. I'll try and also have updates for you for the state game of WA versus South Australia. That will be a cracker. Can't wait for this round to start. We are about an hour away from bounce down of Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs. Let's go ahead, enjoy that game. Again, hit that subscribe button down below, leave a like, also leave a comment, but also go and follow us on Facebook at All Things Aussie Footy. Go and give Rolla Games some support as well for the game. Go and buy it. All their links are down in the description below for the Instagram, Facebook, and where you can also go and buy that game. So a massive thank you again to Rolla Games for coming on and being a partner in this as well. But let me know what you guys want to see in these, what you like, what you don't like about the show, and I'll go from there. But other than that, guys, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.